put down that camera and strap in. It's time for a new episode of TogChat Live. Get ready for 60 minutes of wall-to-wall photography, including photo news, Tog tips, and image reviews to help you improve your photography. Here's your host, Joe Edelman.
Hey, that's me. How you doing, gang? Thanks for joining me for TogChat episode number 44. Great to see all you guys here on Monday night. I hope you all had a great weekend. I hope you got in a whole bunch of shooting. I know we got a lot of people checking in. Let me know where you're from. I've got John from the UK, Troy's here from Oklahoma, Jeff in Texas, Robert down in San Antonio, Ian in Sydney, Australia. Good morning. How you doing? Got Sean, Eric, Mayme is here. I have one of Mayme's pictures to look at tonight. Tom W, James Brown, Brent Ventura, Dennis, Cleavon. Tons of people. Thank you guys so much. It's great to see like a big crowd spreading out to get this show going. Now, you know that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you guys a request right out of the box. And that request is, let's let people know that we are here. So please, take a second, hit up that social media stuff, okay? So make sure if you're not following me, you're already doing that. But by all means, tweet out, let people know that we're here, that we're live right now. Post it on your Facebook page, let people know. Let's get the word out. Let's see how many people we can get here on a Monday night for TogChat, okay? So remember, guys, we're here 3 nights a week doing this. It's Monday night, it's Wednesday night, and it is Thursday night. So put that in your calendars. Plan on being back. I hope to see you on Wednesday and Thursday. So now I'm hearing some random reports that I'm getting some audio issues, gang. Let me know if you're having some audio problems. If we are, and it sounds like we are, you know what? I'll go ahead and switch mics. So instead of even playing with this, let's just go ahead and we're going to switch over to another mic here really quick. Instead of me troubleshooting, I'll bring this one back. I'll bring that one in. And your volume is probably going to drop just a little bit, gang, but you should be okay with audio now. So give me a heads up on what we got going there, and we'll come back to the lavalier a little bit later. We'll see what happens, okay? So let's see if I can get Chad or Morgan to give me a heads up here on what we got going with the audio. But from what I'm seeing, we should have audio going out. Bear with me here, gang. Okay, so awesome. Sounds like we're doing good. Chad, do me a favor. Make your messages a whole lot shorter, man. Okay, because I can't talk and read long sentences at the same time. So here we go, gang. Let's get into what we have to deal with tonight. So I need to start out with a news story. And this is kind of a really big news story. And I'm a little bit concerned because I know one of these guys. And, at the same time, I know that a lot of you know these guys and you follow them. But I'm, one of those people that I keep track of all the photo blogs and all the stuff that's going on. So I saw this story this afternoon and I reached out on Facebook and I'm getting, mixed replies. But I know that a lot of you that are here follow Manny Ortiz and Jason Lanier. And my concern, of course, is that Petapixel is reporting that an entire truck of Sony gear has just gone missing. It's been stolen. So, hopefully we figure out where those two guys are pretty soon, because obviously that could be, kind of devastating if we don't figure out what's happening with that, okay? So to get into the photo reviews, I want to start right out tonight because I've got a couple really cool images, and these are some good teaching images that we're going to deal with tonight. So first of all, you can have your photo reviewed by me doing one of two things. One, join my Facebook group. That's the best way. The Facebook group's a great learning experience, and I promise you, you guys hear me say this every week, but if you're new here tonight, this group is very different. The link is in the description below the video. Sign up for the group. Take a couple days and lurk. Don't go in and post right away. Don't go in and comment right away. Lurk and see how we do things. You're going to see it's a very different kind of group, okay? If you are one of those folks that really does not like Facebook and is uncomfortable with having to use Facebook, you can use the link below the video that is tog.chat/photo review, and you can submit your images for review here on TogChat. So that being said, I already asked you about the social media. Please, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, make sure that you do. If for some reason you have not yet hit that thumbs up like button, please make sure that you do that. That would also be greatly appreciated. But let's go ahead and let's dig in to our first pictures. So our first photograph comes to us from Romania, Joenel, and he told me I could call him Joe for short. All of his stats are up there in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, so I'll let you read them yourselves. He posted this photograph in my Facebook group. This is his first post to the group, so welcome. This is a photograph of his girlfriend, very lucky man. They did this shot in some free time about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He was really struggling with the sun, so he found a spot that was nice and shady with soft, even light. And if you guys have watched my videos about shooting outdoors in bright sunlight, you know that I am all about shooting in shade as opposed to dealing with bright sunlight whenever possible. And if you learn how to really look for good shade, you'll also get wonderful catch lights in the eyes by doing that. So he actually shot this near a parking garage. They found some stairs that he could kind of, work in that gave him the whole shady effect that he wanted. So it's all natural light. He said next time he might consider taking the flash out to do a shot like this. But I got to be honest with you, Joe, I would actually stick with the soft light that you're getting from the shade. As long as you can really continue to refine your eye and find good shade, then for me at least, I'm not one for adding a flash to that. So he is happy with the result of this. He got what he was looking for. The things that he would change if he were to go back and do this again. Number one, he said that he would pick a different color flower to match the color of her eye makeup or her lips. And then, it's also worth noting, and I'm sorry, I skipped over this, he did all his post-production in Lightroom and Photoshop. So what I love about this is that it really forces you to look at her eye, one eye. Then what's great about it, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of all the cognitive psychology, but there is psychology that actually explains how our brains allow us to kind of fill in the rest of her face, even though we're only seeing half of it. So I'm a big fan of the fact that the composition is off-center, and it's not quite on a rule of thirds, which is even better yet, mainly because it doesn't need to be. He's done a perfect job of splitting the face. Literally, Joe, if there was any one thing that I would actually do dramatically differently than what you've done, and a lot of you are already guessing, I would take the earring out. To me, you've got a softness and a naturalness to this shot, which is just really gorgeous. 9 out of 10 people aren't going to pay attention to it, but at least as far as your subject is concerned, that earring is the brightest part of the scene. Certainly the background's brighter overall. So indeed, I do wish that was gone. And I have to be honest, I like the fact that the flower is a complementary color to what's going on in the scene. It really doesn't bother me that it doesn't match with the lips or the eyes, because obviously we've got red in the lips, we've got some pink in and around the eyes. The yellow works very complementary because, of course, there's that little bit of green stem. The yellow works very complementary to the shirt. If we're being super, super picky, and if I was going to encourage you to, really, really up your game on the details, I would love to see the creases that are in the shirt kind of smoothed out. You could actually probably pull that off using the healing tool in Photoshop and have it work out. But that's kind of one of those things. Just keep an eye on that. You're going to reach a point in your photography where in order to get from good to super good, it's not going to come down to your mastery of the camera and your mastery of lighting. It's going to come down to your mastery of details. So the sooner that you start spotting that kind of stuff in camera when you're shooting, the better, because it's going to make, it's going to kind of up your game in that sense. Okay. But overall, love the shot. Really, really well done. Congratulations on that. And I will look forward to seeing more photos from you in the Facebook group. Okay. So also, gang, just a reminder, if you are not a member of my Patreon group and a supporter of the channel, you can do so by visiting Patreon/Joe Edelman. There are several benefits that you get, but basically what it is, it's a way for you to support what I'm doing here on YouTube. And you can do that for as little as $1 per video, actually even as little as $1 per month. Tonight, since we're here on YouTube, I will do my best to answer questions that come up. If you have a question that you absolutely need to get an answer to tonight, you can click on that little $sign that's down in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. That's for Super Chat. I guarantee you I will answer any and all Super Chat questions that are posted tonight. You can do that for as little as $1 to as much as $500 per question. I will do a Q&A at the end of the evening. I will try to answer as many questions as I can, but believe me, Super Chat, guaranteed I will stop. I'll answer your question. If we have to stay a little bit late even to get them all done, we'll stay a little bit late. Not a problem, okay? So our next shot that we have here comes to us from Rome, Italy. And I've looked at one of Andrea's shots before here on TogChat, but this one I wanted to pick on particularly, and I don't mean pick on the photograph, but I selected this one because there's actually some great teaching material that comes from this. And a lot of you have asked me, how do you pick the pictures that you do in TogChat? The formula is very simple. It's what can I teach? So some weeks we get a lot of wow photos. And really what I'm trying to do is give you a lot of background and kind of information on some of the thought process that went into them. And other weeks we get some pictures that aren't necessarily that impressive, but there's some really good learning points. This week, actually, I think we have a really good mix. And I'm really kind of excited because this week we also have an image in here from a 16-year-old that's quite impressive. So that's coming up. So Andrea, as I mentioned, he's in Rome, Italy. All of your specs are there. So he gave me a fair amount of background information here, and I want to relay the background information to you so that we have a kind of level playing field in terms of the talking points. So just so you all understand before you start typing your opinions on this picture, this is not a shot we're really looking at to critique this shot. We're really more interested in the scenario. So let me explain. So this was from a session that Andrea did. Andrea, by the way, for those of you that haven't been here before, he's a regular. He's a member of my Facebook group. He's also an accomplished actor who hopefully is going to be coming to Hollywood very soon. But for now, he's in Italy. So he also shoots actors' headshots. So this was a session to update this actress's headshots. He's known her casually, but not really well for some time. And he was really just completely taken aback by the problems that he ran into. So this shot was done on location. The appointment was set for 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and his plan was to take advantage of a large square reflector, basically behind himself with the sun behind her, so that that reflector would really give him some nice pop in her eyes. Unfortunately, his subject arrived 2 hours late. Now, during the week leading up to the shoot, he kept asking her for selfies with the various outfits so that he could figure out which ones would be best. This is something that he's heard me talk about. If you've never been here before, anytime I'm doing a shoot, whether it's a portrait, a headshot, modeling portfolio, whatever, I have the subjects take selfies of themselves wearing the outfits and send them to me. That way I can approve them in advance and say, hey, that's great, or no, that's too busy, or do you have something that's more like this or that? So by the time they show up, I know exactly what's coming. A lot of you have had that experience where the model shows up with her clothes and the stuff's just like, what the heck were you thinking? It's horrible. And then you're complaining that it kind of ruined your shoot. Well, this is how you make sure it doesn't ruin your shoot. So he did all that, but the problem is she didn't send the photos until like almost midnight on Saturday, right before Sunday's shoot. So she showed up for the shoot 2 hours late on Friday, really nervous. And believe me, I've had lots of models show up late and really nervous, but that's because they know I was probably going to rip into them if they showed up late. But she showed up late. She was nervous. He did his best to kind of act like a clown, be really upbeat, really funny, to try and get her to relax. Obviously, he struggled with that, and we can see that from the body language in this shot. This actress did not want to use a makeup artist, so she didn't hire a makeup artist. So his plan was to try and go with nice, even, soft lighting that would be very forgiving. So far, that's a good decision. He used one Yongwano strobe speed light in a shoot-through umbrella set on camera right a little bit higher than her, and he had a white reflector kind of chest level as a fill, and then a second speed light in an octabox on camera left. And that was just about 90 degrees back. So it's kind of coming, more from the left side. So we can see all those lights or the impact of those lights in the shot. If you check the catch light here, here's the first light in the shoot through umbrella. Here is the reflector right down here. And you can tell that there's some highlighting coming in from camera left from that octabox. So there's the 3 lights. He did his post-processing in Capture One, adjusted RGB levels, pulled out some shadows. Then in Photoshop, removed some blemishes, liquefied the shirt, face aware liquefied her left eye, and then gave her just a hint of a smile on her lips. So keep in mind, he actually added smile to this. It's unfortunate because it really wasn't there. He did some contouring, a little bit of tiny little bit of frequency separation, enhanced the eye, and sharpening. So when he first showed the subject the images in Capture One, as raw files, she was very happy. Ha, Andrea, thank you. You're here. Glad you made it home on your motorcycle in Rome. Must be nice. Anyway, so when he first showed the subject the photos in Capture One as raw, she was very happy. But then she showed the images to her acting coach's assistant. So keep in mind, this isn't even her agent. This is an acting coach assistant, okay? So the acting coach, who of course is not a photographer, and to use Andre's words, who has never held a camera in his life, he said to her that the lights were too flat and he didn't like the shot. So she didn't bother thanking Andrea when he sent her the other shots. He did the shoot for free as a favor. So at this point, he's kind of struggling. What does he do? Does he shoot her again? Does he work under the same conditions? Does he charge her money? Did he make the wrong choices with the lighting setup? And when do we cross the line from an even light to a flat light? Okay, so Andrea, I'm going to take that backwards. All right, so basically all of you, those few questions at the end, that's what we're looking at here in this shot, okay? The only thing I'm going to tell you photographically, Andrea, from a color balance standpoint, and I get it, this woman was having a really, really bad day, so I think your hand was a little forced here, but her skin tones are just a little off to me. And I have a feeling part of it's because she did her own makeup, but I'm getting an awful lot of pink around her eyes. Like, honestly, it almost looks like she was crying. And her blush on her cheek is actually really kind of orangey yellow. I don't mean it like all extreme, but it's there. The other thing I would encourage you, if you have a situation like this again, where you've got a subject where, with fairly shiny skin who is not wearing proper makeup, the video that I have on how to fix shiny skin in Lightroom and Photoshop, I would actually tone down some of this highlighting and the little highlights on her nose here, which I get it. According to the acting coach's assistant, will make this image even flatter yet. But trust me, you'll be better off for it. That's really the only feedback I'm going to give you on the image photographically. You did fine. So your first mistake, let's back up here. I know I said I was going to start at the end, but I'm going to actually go to the beginning. So the first mistake was the working for free part. And then when you clearly were not being respected for the work you were doing for free, you still went ahead with a shoot when the situations were not ideal. So believe me, I've done plenty of shoots for free. I still continue to do shoots for free. If it's something that I want to do, or if I'm doing a favor for someone, if you guys have turned into my Thursday night talk chats, I talk all the time about the idea that I will not discount my rates. If I'm going to do somebody a favor, I'll do it for free before I'll discount my rates. So as of 2 o'clock on the Sunday, when you're supposed to do this shoot, You have agreed to do this woman a favor. You have set aside your time. You have asked her to send you photos so that you could help her select outfits. She didn't do that for you until literally about 14 hours prior to the shoot. And she shows up and is clearly not having a good day. So all of that being said, the really, in my opinion, smartest thing you could have done would have been at the most 1 hour after the shoot, the scheduled time. So by 3 p.m., called her or texted her and said, hey, you're not here. I'm sorry. Shoot's off. And then at that point, you have the ability to negotiate over, do we schedule for another day? And if you still want to help her out, then okay. At that point, you've got to come back and say, well, listen, I'll reschedule for you, but let's be clear. I need the photos 48 hours in advance of the shoot. Otherwise, I'm canceling. You need to be on time. If you are 10 minutes late, I'm going home and there will not be another discussion. And you can completely be a nice guy and still lay down these guidelines. I'm not lying. Like for me, if it was somebody in the industry, an actress or a model, I would be a lot more of a jerk about that, even if I was willing to help them. It would be very clear, look, you have no leeway left. I'm ticked at what you did. It was unprofessional, so I don't know why I'm even helping you in the first place if you can't be professional. But unfortunately, this is one of the things where if you do work for free, and if you don't set standards and guidelines and maintain them, people will not place value on what you do. Morton Jacobson, how did the slang tog become a thing? I would like to claim that I did it, but in all fairness, I didn't do it. I believe Matt Granger has done a thing called Tog Life for quite some time, but I just decided it was a cool name and I did TogChat. Tog meaning Roderick, short for photographer. Anyway, so Andre, honestly, that's it. All of you, the lesson here is you're going to reach a point in your career. And of course, there's several steps along the way, but points where you've got to be able to take things to the next level. Okay. You have to understand when you get to each of those points, anytime that you're willing to lower your standards to the level below that, that's exactly what you're going to wind up doing photographically. So you have to be willing to walk away. And trust me, one of the hardest things to do, especially if you're trying to make money and build a career as a photographer, one of the hardest things to do is to walk away. Sometimes you just have to understand that you need to say no. Because here's the problem. And this is exactly what Andrea is dealing with this young woman now. Once you press the button, there is the expectation that you have done your best work. And if it is not your best work, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. You ultimately don't get to blame the girl. It's your fault. So you are better off to not press the button. As far as the assistant or the coach's assistant who said that he didn't like them, there's a bunch of different ways to deal with that. But the challenge that you have in this situation is this young woman just simply had a bad experience. And I'm not blaming you for that. For whatever reason was going on with her. And, by your own explanation, you ultimately had a hard time really connecting with her and kind of getting her in the zone. If I'm a betting person, there was a lot else going on with her, period. I'm not even so sure it's a matter of saying, well, she's either not a good actress or she's nervous. It really seems to me, we're showing up 2 hours late. We weren't, submitting pictures because getting your headshots done, that's an important thing. So the fact that you've got somebody that does good work doing it for free, you should be excited about that. So she's dragging her feet and submitting them. She shows up 2 hours late. She was acting nervous. I have a feeling there's a lot more going on with her than what you were able to kind of glean that day. So I wouldn't stress the acting coach's assistant thing. It's just one of those things. Ignore it. It is what it is. If you are going to work with her again, if you want to do her a favor, You can't apologize for the quality of the images. You have to tell her, like, listen, I didn't get your outfits on time. And next time, make sure you give them a specific deadline. They meet the deadline, the shoot's off for that scheduled time, period, okay? So you have to make sure that you set the deadlines. You have to make sure that she understands show up on time. And if she doesn't, you go home. In the future, one of the ways that you combat the acting coach's assistant thing, it's by establishing yourself with a certain amount of credibility. And that takes some time. So your last question about the flat light. Your light is not too flat at all. Flat light would be like if you look at my videos where I've done the backlighting, where I have all the light behind the subject. In those scenarios, you get a very flat light. In fact, I talk in those videos about how I always bump the contrast ever so slightly on those shots. This light is not too flat. It's not a problem. You did absolutely fine. We could argue as to whether or not you needed the light on camera left, as to whether or not it's really adding a whole lot to the shot, but it's not hurting the shot at all. So I wouldn't lose too much sleep over it. That's kind of it. Literally, this is one of those scenarios where you have to chalk it up to the learning aspect of, becoming a professional photographer. It's part of the process. Okay. So let's move on from there. One more time, guys, just a quick reminder, please. Okay. If you have not subscribed yet to the YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button. It's right underneath you. Make sure you're following me on social media. I am most active on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find me on all the others, LinkedIn, Pinterest. I'm there. I'm on all of them. Tumblr, you name it. And please do hit that thumbs up button. And of course, last but not least, don't forget the comments, not just here in the chat, but also down below underneath the description section. It would be greatly appreciated. Okay. So next up for us tonight here, we've got a shot that comes to us from Argentina. And this is from Diego. All of your stats are up there in the upper left, so I'm not going to read those. I'll let you guys read them yourselves. This is from a shoot that he put together simply for the sake of being able to go out and practice, and I love to hear that. Music to my ears. He is working very, very hard to be able to up his game doing portraits. So he's also planning on selling his 85mm f1.8, and he wants to go out and get either a 90mm or 100mm f2.8 macro lens. So he decided that he was going to deliberately go out and shoot wide open so that he could really get his head wrapped around what are the trade-offs going to be. Obviously, he's heard me talk a whole lot of times about the downsides and the things you've got to be careful of if you're going to shoot wide open. So he decided it would be a good idea to go out and practice that and see if he could really develop his eye for doing this stuff. So he knew he was playing with super thin depth of field because he's heard me discuss it so many times. So he made it a point to square the model's face off to the camera lens so that basically the eyes are on the same plane. That helps combat the issue of really, really narrow depth of field. So overall, he likes the end result, but he kind of got mixed result. And he's realizing that it's really not worth the headache of shooting at 1.8 to try and do shots like this. So let's get into some of the details, and then I'll give you some of the points because he's listed some really good points here. And then I also want to make an additional point about why you don't need to do all this work outside. So I'll get to that. So his lighting, he used a Joenel 568EX. He also had a Photox 60 centimeter by 90 centimeter softbox over on camera right, and he had a reflector beside the model on camera left, just out of frame. He did his post-production in both Lightroom and Photoshop. He is also going to have the ability to work with this young lady again, which is great. She's very pretty. So he definitely wants to be able to work with a slightly smaller aperture so that he's got a little bit more breathing room. Okay. So for this shoot or this shot, some of the things that he very specifically did, detail-oriented. And I love the fact that he outlined these in his post because it means he's paying attention and listening and really trying. Andrea, thank you so much, man. Thank you. So, it's okay. So I hate when it's headshots. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one, unfortunately. So, I would say to you, Andrea, only do another shoot with her if you think it would be good practice for you. But beyond that, make sure you do set some groundwork. So back to Diego's shot here. His bullet points. First of all, he made sure to plan with the model that he had solid colors for the clothing. Really, really important because he didn't want distractions. Also, he made sure that she wasn't wearing any jewelry. She had a wristwatch on, and he made her take it off because indeed, if there was a wristwatch sitting right there or right there, that would be a huge distraction in this shot. So very, very well done. Also, he advised her about getting her fingernails done and making sure that they were either clear coat or French tip before the shoot, but she showed up with color. So he did the smart thing. He hid the fingernails. Very, very well done. And then last but not least, which she did in post, she does have a tattoo on her left wrist, which of course was showing in the shot. He took that out in post. That's awesome. I've done that many, many times. So the things that he's looking for feedback on specifically is the pose and the psychology behind her body language. Okay. So, Diego, overall, I love the thought that you are putting into this. Like you are, and I've had the good fortune. Diego's been in my little group for a while, and I'm not taking any credit for it. He's putting in a ton of practice, but I'm loving the progress that you're making. So I think the things that will help you take this to the next level with where you're at now, if you're going to do a hands up kind of thing, and this girl's got great hair for that. So she's got nice full bodied hair. I would encourage you to avoid jackets because as you can see, the minute you do that, the jackets bunch and they get kind of crinkly. Now, the good part of it is this girl's gorgeous. The jacket's not a huge distraction, but it's all crinkled up. So I would just have her wear a blouse or even a tank top or something like that, but I'd avoid the jacket aspect, okay? The hands, you did a great job by hiding the hands. The only other thing that I would encourage you to try, when I do the hands in the hair, I will almost always, before I let the model put her hand up, because the first thing most girls do, if you tell them, okay, put your hands in your hair, Tom W., thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. The first thing they do is they come up and it's like claws, and they go on the outside of the hair, and the fingers are like dug in, like they're about to give themselves a scalp massage. Doesn't really look that good. So I always explain to them, listen, I want you to take your hands inside the hair, and I have them come in underneath the bangs and underneath the hair, and then start to move it around. And I explain to them, I want the hands softly on the head at all times, no claws, okay? So this is not bad by any means, and if this was done early in your shoot, then having you do the hands on the outside like this was wise, especially if you don't have a hair and makeup artist available to clean up the hair after she messes it up. If you're not worried about messing the hair up, and or if you have a makeup artist available, then you want to take the hands inside the hair and let the hair fall down over the hands. That also would hide the fingernail color that you were dealing with. So in terms of your question about body language, psychology, and all that, overall her body language is fine. Where I'm off just a little bit, her eyes feel like they're slightly pressed open. And I have a feeling this may be in part because you were working in a dark setting and then you're firing a flash. I really would love to see her facial expression just slightly more relaxed. She's got beautiful eyes. She's got great lips. All that's wonderful. I would just like to see the expression a little bit more relaxed. But there's one thing that I wanted to point out to all of you. And I will, in fact, you know what I'll do? I will make a little tiny video clip. And if you all promise to come back on Wednesday, I will show the clip on Wednesday. For me, and I know this bokeh background thing with the out of focus lights is really, really popular today. I'm trying not to make a zombie comment here, okay? But, you know, I'm fully well aware that Jason Lanier, Manny Ortiz, they do it all the time. Everybody's into it. Got to go try it. That's cool. I am one of these people that says, why go outside and drag a bunch of lights out on location and have to deal with the elements and all that other stuff when I can do this in the studio? So I literally have a set of images that are just that bokeh in all different patterns and colors. So I could do this shot because basically what you've done here, Diego, is you've gone outside and you've created a studio. The way your lights are set up, shooting at, ISO 100, etc., you're basically lighting her as if she's in a studio. You're not relying on any ambient light for her. The only ambient light at play is getting those little bokeh balls from the street lights down the street, and that's why you're shooting wide open, and that's why you're shooting at 1/50th of a second to make sure that they show up. But I can go in a studio where I have complete control. I could even maybe add a rim light on camera left so that I'm getting a little bit of highlighting. Everything's a lot more relaxed. And then I can simply drop those bokeh balls in over top of the shot. And all I have to do literally is drop it in, change the blend mode, create a mask, take a black brush, and brush out her hair and her face. Done. So it's literally about 30 seconds worth of Photoshop to put the bokeh balls in. So by no means am I saying, oh, hey, you were wrong or you were stupid for going and doing this. No, all practice is great practice, and it's wonderful that you're developing the technique. But you've also got to be honest with yourself. And Diego, you may not have an indoor location to shoot at, in which case, knock yourselves out. But I want to make sure all of you are kind of hearing this and understanding that element. And that is that these trendy things, it's all well and good, but remember, there are more than one way to do things. It's kind of like the high-speed sync thing, okay? High-speed sync is fine if you really understand it and you really have a need for it. Most people don't have a need for it. Many more people don't understand it. And if they did understand it, they would potentially not spend the money for the gear because there are simpler, cheaper, easier ways to do it. The idea of shooting wide open outside in sunlight or having dark backgrounds in sunlight, that's been around forever. It's not new, but it's trendy now, and there's gear for it. So I just want you guys to consider that. So I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll take a shot that I have from the studio on a black background, and I'll add bokeh to it, and I'll do a real short video clip, and I'll show it at the beginning of Wednesday night's TogChat. So make sure that you tune in for that. But Diego, all in all, you're doing a great job with, kind of where you're headed with your practice. If I was going to get like super, super picky, and again, this is practice, so I'm not looking to like rip things apart here. I don't know that there's a lot of value to having that white wall on camera left. It kind of doesn't necessarily add anything here at all. So I would just say, to me, it either needs to see a little bit more or not be there at all. And then possibly even more bokeh in the background. So, but other than that, seriously, great work. You're doing a great job. Okay. All right. Next up, we have a picture that comes to us from Queensland, Australia. This is by Darryl Currey. So all your stats are up there in the top. So let me give you his background on it, and then I'll give you my feedback. He was aiming for a more raw and natural fashion image. He's been wanting to simplify his work a little bit more, and he feels that sometimes things like his lights can get in the way of shooting photos. Plus, he's feeling very comfortable with doing the higher production work with lights at this point, so he decided he was going to go simple. So he engaged the model and a local store to help out with the styling and the wardrobe choices, and apparently both the model and the store are very happy with the photos, so that's always a plus and very important. So in his mind, he had the idea of doing this shoot with a 50 millimeter, but at the end, right before he decided to do the shoot, or right before he went to do the shoot, he decided to use his Nikon D500, which is, of course, an APS-C crop sensor camera. So instead of using the 50 millimeter, he opted for his Sigma Art 35 millimeter lens, which is going to be the effective focal length of 50 millimeters when used on an APS-C. Doesn't change what it does with distortion, etc., but it gives you that effective length. He did the shot, as you can see, at f1.6, 1/125th of a second. The things that he wishes he would have done a little bit differently is he wishes that he would not have cropped her fingers off on camera left just a little bit more space there. mainly so that he had a little bit more room, also top and bottom, to be able to make an 8x10 out of this. Okay, so other than that, he likes the fact that the image is, shall we say, not quite perfect. He's really trying to kind of turn the direction of his work so that he's putting a lot more emphasis on working with his models, their expressions, and their poses. Okay, so that being said, the feedback that I would give you for this, Darryl, so I get the sense that even though you managed to get a store to kind of do some styling and give you some wardrobe choices, Jose, thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate it. I get the sense that this essentially still falls into the category of a practice shot. So the thing that I wanted to talk about here was the idea, since you called it a fashion image. And I've been seeing this quite a bit lately with a lot of the photographs that I've been reviewing where people refer to them as fashion. And I want to kind of make it clear that if this image were to stand by itself, whether it be for a designer, whether it be for a fashion magazine or for a catalog, this image has some issues. Now, all you guys are commenting about the tilt on the camera. You're missing the point here. I don't really mind the tilt. A couple people are talking about the tilt. It's fashion, gang. Understand, and this is why you guys got to get your heads wrapped around this. So stop typing about what you don't like about the picture and listen and learn something, okay? The minute he says fashion image, that changes all the rules dramatically. You guys hear me talk all the time about how there are no rules. Well, in fashion, there are even fewer rules, but there are still some rules. So a camera tilt, hell, in fashion, if it's not tilted or weird, it sucks. So his camera tilt's fine. But here's the thing. Let's understand about what the fashion picture requires. Because you guys are all worried about composition rules and straight lines and all that kind of stuff. None of that has any bearing here. Zero. Like zero bearing. You're just throwing out opinions based on your own taste. Let's focus on the fact that there are different genres of photography with different needs. Okay? Now, if this shot was for the designer or for catalog, we need to see the whole outfit. We don't see that. If this shot was part of a series of images, in other words, it was going to be a layout, 6 to 7 images over a couple of pages where these are similar outfits with similar lengths and styles, then it would be okay to have a couple images that were cropped tighter and closer to be able to show detail, like the interesting detail on the belt or the way it kind of folds over to create the halter top at the top. Then the closer images make sense. But the problem that we have here, and again, this is based on Darryl's comment of fashion image. The problem that we have here is that I can't tell if that's pants or a skirt. Or not a skirt. Well, yeah, skirt, dress, whichever. I mean, it's clearly like a one piece, but it's impossible to tell. And we don't have a full idea of the length. It's not completely out of the possibility that that thing cuts off about 6 inches below the knees, and we don't realize that in this shot. So the cropping, that's where the cropping is awkward. The camera tilt, believe me, gang, for a fashion shoot, the camera tilt's fine. It's totally fine. The best part about the background, actually, Roy Patton. So this is the next point that I was going to get to. So this is a great time to bring this up. Roy Patton says he likes the old school Polaroid feel to the post. The picture definitely gives the Kiss feel to it. So now, here's the thing. I hate the Polaroid feel, but I'm not griping about Darryl's picture. It's just not my thing. I'll tell you why, just to give you some background. And so, Darryl, I am not saying, oh, you should have done it differently. No. This is totally an opinion piece right now. For me, it has that Instagram feel to it, which, of course, Instagram's really big in the fashion world, yada, yada, yada. I get it. I just really wish that it could kind of stand on its own merits instead of having that Polaroid feel to it. But that's my taste. By no means should you make any changes to the image based on that statement. But I want to be clear to the folks that have been going off about the tilt and the composition. That's because I'm the guy, and this is part of why I suck at fashion. I'm not afraid to admit I suck at fashion. If I was doing this picture, I could not have this shot because her eyes are so dark. Like, I simply couldn't have this shot that way. In the fashion world, what you see there is very common. It's completely normal. So, I don't know how much of a real fashion market there is in Gladstone, Queensland, Australia. If it's really worth your while to be shooting fashion, in that sense, Darryl. But if it is, if there's a potential market there for you, man, knock yourself out. Just make sure that your shots are really representing fashion. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that, hey, like, this is kind of fashiony because it's a cool outfit, or I got it from a designer, or it came from a boutique. But then you don't really shoot a picture that meets the fashion requirements. That's your challenge, okay? So, Chris Chow, you must have just got here. How do you get your photos critiqued? It's real easy. Number one, you should and can join my Facebook group. The link is in the description below. Most of these photographs come from my Facebook group. If you're one of those few crazy people out there that just doesn't want to deal with Facebook at all, you can submit your photos. The link is also in the description below. It's tog.chat/photo review. You'll be asked to fill out a couple questions, give me some answers, some background information on your shot, and then your photo is eligible to be reviewed here on TogChat, okay? Raymond Elias, busy background? Nah, not at all, man. Not for a fashion shot. Like, you guys got to understand, as soon as the very first sentence that I read to you about Darryl's picture, in this shot, I was aiming for a more raw and natural fashion image. Bingo, he nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. The only thing I'm taking exception to here is I admitted my personal taste, I don't like the filter look or the Polaroid look, as Roy Patton called it, but that's a personal choice. I have no problem with that. The only exception I'm taking is the crop on the bottom. The tilt's cool, the background gives it a sense of place. Understand that fashion pictures are about, one, selling the outfit. Two, they're about mood and attitude. They're not about making the model look great, ever. So we're talking a completely different set of rules here with this shot. And that's why I picked this one, to really make you guys think about that. Because indeed, and exactly as I predicted, people start jumping in right away. Oh, it's tilted. Oh, this is busy. Oh, that's... No, none of it's wrong. You could pick up any high-end fashion magazine and you're going to see the same kind of camera tilts. You're going to see the same kind of background. You're going to see the same no affect expressions, kind of the bored expression, all that kind of stuff. That's exactly what you're going to see in a fashion magazine. So in that sense, Darryl totally nailed it on the money. Okay? All right, so next up. So maybe that'll get you guys to slow down with your opinions, right? Okay. Next up, I have a picture here. I'm excited about this picture. I'm excited about this picture because I just met this young woman, well, met her online, so to speak, in the last week. So Mayme is a 16-year-old photographer from the great state of Alabama here in the United States. All of her tech specs are up in the right or upper left-hand corner there. Let me give you the background on this. So this was her first post in my Facebook group. The subject that she was photographing wanted a very minimal background, and she wanted all the photos to be black and white. Mayme really enjoyed the session because it's a style that she loves working with. She doesn't get asked to do it often. I'm a natural light portrait photographer, she says, and I guess it just isn't a common style to shoot with natural light. I have a feeling she made that comment because indeed a lot of the photos in the Facebook group are in the studio with strobes. And I will tell you guys that I had the opportunity to take a look at Mayme's Facebook page and see some of her images. We are talking one seriously talented 16-year-old here. And Mayme, I think you're here and watching tonight. I have to tell you, as much as I like this picture, I saw some images on your Facebook page that blow this one away. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of your photography in my group. So she did this photo taken in front of a white wall that had paint flaking off it and was showing some gray areas. Did it early in the morning, 8 a.m. That part alone, I have to give you a lot of credit for, Mayme, because in my world, I don't pick up a camera before 10 a.m., period. So, subject was standing about 6 feet away from the wall. She shot this as a JPEG in black and white in the camera. So she cropped it a little bit, increased the contrast slightly, about a +2, and also brought down the highlights just a little, like -5 or 6 in Adobe Lightroom. She would have worked on it more, but she liked the way, overall feel of the shot, the way it felt, and she was afraid she'd take away from the natural look if she went too far. No flash, no lights, no reflectors. So her final comment, she's a young photographer and would absolutely love any feedback. She wants to improve her work, and she feels like she's been at a little bit of a standstill lately, so she's hoping this group will help her grow. So Mayme, there's a bunch of things that I'm going to tell you. For starters, I'm going to guess that you just found out about me recently and hence the group, which means you probably haven't watched all of my videos yet. So you need to do that first and foremost. Secondly, the way you get out of that standstill is by doing what I tell people to do every single week, and that's shoot and shoot and shoot. And sometimes don't shoot with your Nikon D3200. Sometimes you need to go out and shoot with an iPhone. That's all you need. But you need to be thinking composition, all that good stuff, okay? So before everybody keeps going off about this, she shot it in JPEG because she didn't realize she had it in JPEG, guys. That question did come up in the group. So we've all made that mistake. Okay, so Mayme, first of all, I wanted to give you one little tip since you like black and white, and this is a shooting tip. In your Nikon D3200, there is a section where you can go in and you can essentially set like the color profiles. Those are the settings which are like vivid, standard, neutral, etc. And there is a monochrome setting. If you check your camera manual, you can actually make adjustments in those settings. So what I would suggest that you do, and at least try this, I think you'll like it. If you go into the monochrome setting and then on your menu, you just push the wheel over to your thumb wheel over to the right, and it's going to open up settings for brightness and contrast and sharpness and all that stuff. The only one you need to change when you're in there is the contrast. Push it up to +3. That's as high as it goes. It doesn't go any higher. And then just go ahead and hit OK and back out of the menu. That contrast that you just changed, the +3, that only changes your contrast in the black and white setting. It doesn't change anything else at all. Oh, I see somebody, 5mm John Campbell. Yeah, sorry guys, it's a 50mm lens, okay? That's a typo on my part. So the reason for doing that, when you look at your JPEG preview on the back of your camera's LCD, you will see an image that looks just like a black and white film image. It's awesome. You're still, of course, you're going to be shooting in RAW going forward. So you still got the RAW image, which means, of course, you still have the color image. You still have the image with no contrast boosted. That contrast boost is only happening in Troy. Actually, it wouldn't be better because this is a 16-year-old who's just getting started and just learning. So eventually, she maybe get to that. So understand, guys, when I talk to students, I talk to students based on where they're at in the learning curve. So dumping a whole bunch of professional grade stuff and advanced stuff is not going to help anyone at all, okay? So Morton Jacobson, does RAW versus JPEG matter when you know you're going with black and white? Hell yes, man. So let me explain this, okay? And Mayme, I don't know if you actually set your camera to monochrome or not when you shot this, but let me give you guys a little tip. And Morton, I don't know how old you are, so maybe you're off the hook for this too. But if you've been around as long as I have, you have no excuse. Digital makes people lazy. Don't freaking be lazy. Back in the film days, if you were using Kodak Tri-X 400 speed film in one camera, and you were using Kodachrome or Ektachrome transparency film in the other camera, same camera body, same lenses, you would expose and light very differently between the two. It wasn't just like, oh, it's 5/6 and oh, it's light and that's it. No, 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 no. If you were setting up a shot in black and white, you would light it one way. If you were setting up a shot in color, you would light it another way and you would expose it differently. Then digital comes along at a time when the world's all about color. So in the early days of digital, nobody was shooting black and white digital because, ooh, who don't want to shoot black and white? And finally, people realized that, hey, black and white still really has a place. So then we come out with software like Silver Effects Pro and a bunch of other software, and now black and white's cool. And then black and white got even cooler when it was one click, boom, look at that, right? So here's the challenge. If you are working really hard to make an image look great in color, you are not necessarily doing the right things to make it look good in black and white. So sure, you can spend a whole lot of time in Photoshop or Lightroom or Silver Effects Pro, and you can play around, and you can try and make it look like film, and you can add grain in and all that stuff, but if you're thinking black and white in the first place, you're going to have a better black and white image. So, and I've talked about this in a lot of my videos, guys, when I shoot in the studio or on location, whatever, that's when I decide, when I'm shooting, is this picture going to be color or black and white? And then I will go ahead and I will change my color settings in the camera so that I'm looking at a black and white preview. Indeed, it has no impact on the raw image, but I'm setting my exposure and I'm setting my lighting so that that black and white image is going to look good. And even you guys know that I talk about makeup artists all the time. Makeup artists use a little technique called contouring. It's basically where they put shading. It's not like blush, but it's where they put shading on the cheekbones and even on the side of the nose. You do it on the side of the nose to thin the nose. You put some shading here to give definition to the face. Sometimes you even put a little shading down here to help really define the jawline. If you want a dramatic looking face and you're going to shoot in black and white, you tell your makeup artist to go a little bit heavier on the contouring, and man, that face will pop, really pop. If they use that same amount of contouring for the color shot, the person's going to look pretty scary. So even the makeup should be done differently if you want the shot in black and white. That's why it makes a difference. So yeah, if you're lazy, knock yourself out. Just shoot everything in color, and when you decide you don't like the colors of your picture, then switch it over to black and white. But other than that, guys, come on. If you want good shots, you got to work at it. Just like Mayme's doing here. She went into this knowing she was going to do black and white shots, and she was really excited. So, Mayme, the only thing here that I'm really going to ding you on, given that you're just getting started, but I want to get this idea into your head really early. And there's actually a whole bunch of science behind what I'm about to tell you. So I'm not going to bore you with all the science now, but if you keep following me enough, you'll hear the science explained many, many times because I wind up talking about it a lot. I really, really wish that this young lady was not wearing those earrings. They are a distraction. In fact, they are the lightest, brightest part of the image. So there's a whole bunch of science that has taught us that those earrings will steal attention and actually have a person look at the earrings longer than they will look at the eyes. If it's a jewelry shot, that's okay, but then of course the earrings should be in focus, right? It's not a jewelry shot. So in the future, trust me, keep it simple, stupid. Kiss it. Anything that's a distraction, get rid of it. It's no different than, especially if you photograph a lot of kids your age, Mayme, and they've got long hair, they're going to take that hairband off and stick it on their wrist. And then when you do this, they've got a bracelet that's not a bracelet. And the picture's just sloppy. So those are the kind of details that you really want to make sure that you're watching. But the shot's great. You've got really, really good symmetry. This young lady is very, very attractive. She's got good lips. I would love to see some shots, maybe where you're either shooting straight on at her or maybe even down on her a little bit. I'd love to see those eyes opened up. Different shots. But definitely, if you have the opportunity to work with her again, I would really encourage you to do that. But I will say, Mayme, I did look through some of the photos on your Facebook page, and you've got some really, really awesome stuff. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of your work in the Facebook group. Okay. All right, gang. So we are at 7:28. We're coming up on our hour here. So let me switch my screen back. I've got a couple questions that are waiting for me over here. So I'll give you guys a little bit of time here. We'll run a few minutes over. But Mayme, yes, you have already had hairbands. And you know what? So let me tell you the rest of the story, Mayme. The fact that you have had hairbands ruin your pictures, congratulations. Like, seriously. It's one of those things that I can tell you that, and you might remember it. Once you've done it a couple times and it's ticked you off, in other words, you've looked at the picture afterwards and it's like, doggone it. Why didn't I notice that when I was shooting? That's how you learn not to do it. Because what it does is it builds into what I refer to as your visual database. It's kind of the same as life experiences. So you do it a couple of times. And the good part of it is if you really, really want to teach yourself, Mayme, every time you do it, take the time, use the clone tool, use the healing tool, and remove the hairband. You do that a couple of times, you will never miss that hairband again. I guarantee you. So I'm glad that you've had that happen, literally, because that's how you learn. That's how you learn not to do it, okay? So let's see. got a couple questions here. Here's one that I think I missed a little bit earlier. Marcos asked, Joe, can you explain why you like more the photo because it's not on the rule of thirds? Oh, okay. So here, I'll flip back. Let me bring that shot back up. I'm going to leave Mayme's here. We're going to go back to Joenel's shot. Honestly, Marcos, I like it just because it's strong and it doesn't follow a rule. You know, it's the rebel in me, okay? It's simply a matter of that idea that, think about it, if he had placed her perfectly on the rule of thirds, and honestly, the eye may be, but if that line where the face split was right on the full rule of thirds, the image actually becomes kind of predictable. And predictable's boring. That's my point. So it's not just the, I hate rules thing. I hate rules because rules make pictures predictable. Rules are creativity killers. Mayme, if you're still here, remember that, okay? Rules are creativity killers. And when somebody says to you, Mayme, but it's good to know the rules so that you can break the rules. I wish I had a button here that I could beep, the expletive, but just understand that my response to that is bull crap, okay? You do not need to know the rules to break the rules. You need to really make sure that you are filling your frame with stuff that counts and that you are controlling everything that goes into that frame, and you'll have great images. And Mayme, you've probably never heard me say this before, but one of the best ways that I can prove that argument to you, if you understand what the rule of thirds are and you understand what Fibonacci spirals are, go to Google, do a Google search for iconic photographs, and click on the Images tab. And look at how many pictures that even at your young age of 16, you'll recognize, historical photographs. And pay attention to the composition and notice how many of them ignore the rule of thirds. How many of them don't have a Fibonacci spiral applied to the composition. But they are intense and important moments. That's what we connect with. That's what makes the images important. Okay? So, Marcos, honestly, it's just simply that by not doing the rule of thirds, it makes the image less predictable for me, and that's why I really like it. Okay? Bren Futura is asking, would you still have the customer send you selfies if they're paying you for the portrait? Hell yes, Bren. There's absolutely no reason to not. Understand a couple of things. Number one, even if it's a paying customer and you're kind of going to make them jump through those hoops, so to speak, they are going to appreciate the fact that you are being that detailed and that thorough. And I promise you, even with a paying customer, if you just tell them, hey, make sure you show up with solid colors, don't wear white, whatever your rules are, you'll have people that will ignore that completely. So better to have that debate in advance of the shoot so that you can resolve any misunderstandings, or God forbid, if they're determined to wear like a plaid shirt, you at least know coming in, so you can pick a color and a lighting scheme to kind of minimize that. Work that out in advance. Don't leave that to chance. So if you're just telling people, oh yeah, show up with this, you are just begging for disaster. You do the selfies in advance. And believe me, I do it with all subjects, all ages, all images. Even like, for instance, if I'm doing, I just had this conversation with a young lady last night. I've got a girl, she's 24. She's coming in for a practice session this Saturday. I'm going to be using her for a couple videos that I have coming up. She had to send me a couple images in bathing suits and a couple images in lingerie. When I say lingerie, like real simple, basic bra and panty sets. So I told her when I gave her the directions, listen, you're going to be texting me those images. When you take the selfies, cut your head off. You don't want to be texting pictures, to random people in your bathing suit and a bra and panty set. I just need to see what the outfit looks like and looks like on you. So at the same time, with this selfie thing, okay, there's, a lot of kind of decorum to that idea. It's not just about, oh yeah, send me half naked pictures of yourself. No, but I use it for all shots, all clients, all of it, okay? Chris, we do that twice a day. If you're looking to get into the group, we'd love to have you. Twice a day we accept people into the group. We don't do it by the minute. Just promise me, Chris, when you get into the group, two things. One, you're going to be tagged in a post. It's going to ask you to watch a video at the top of the group. Watch the video. While you're watching that video, it's going to suggest that you watch a second video. Watch that video. And then the second thing is, you will be told that you should not post or comment for several days. Lurk, pay attention, see how we do things. And then, by all means, join in. Because honestly, I'm not interested in your opinions or anyone's opinions. It's a learning group. It really is. It's very, very different. And I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll learn a lot from it. But be careful when you get in there. Don't jump in right away, because I've got some moderators, man, they are quick on that delete button. If you don't follow the rules, they delete it, okay? All right. Raymond Elias asked me, what are your views on vintage lenses? They're old. Raymond, they're fine. I know there's a big trend. I think I've seen Jason Lanier, or maybe Manny too, but I know Jason Lanier doing videos with the Sony, putting old lenses on. And there's probably a bunch of other people. I think I've seen stuff on some of the photo blogs with that. If that's what you're into, that's all cool. For me, vintage, and you guys have heard me talk about this before, vintage is it's old. It's in the past. So I'm not interested in vintage. But if you're into that kind of stuff and you want to play around with that, that's great. It's worth noting, part of the reason why I won't even consider vintage stuff for myself at this point is these right here. Back in the day, I started as a photographer. Everything was manual focus. It was no problem. If I had to rely on my eyes for manual focus today, it would be a lot more difficult for me because my eyes aren't the same as they used to be. So it would be a slower, more deliberate process. But if your eyes are good and, you find good glass and it's older and it's cheaper and you don't mind working manually, nothing wrong with that. Understand that at the end of the day, Raymond, nobody cares how you made the shot. The only people that care that it's vintage glass are the people that are here in this room. Your subjects don't care at all. So, seriously, but that's my honest response there. So, Diego, lines are off. Why not use the tree rather than the building's background? Diego, seriously, you guys are way too deep in that shot. So here, we'll go back again. Let me switch this over. I think maybe this is my fault because I indicated that I wasn't happy with the shot, which had to do with the clothing. I hate to tell you guys, the fact that you're so hung up on the building and the tilt and tree, this is an awesome fashion picture. If her feet were in the shot. I'm serious. You guys are really missing the point. You guys need to go look at more fashion pictures. Understand that there's not one set of rules that applies to everything. There just isn't. Open your minds up, guys. Be a little bit more creative. If this was a portrait, come on, let's face it, okay? If this was a portrait, the lighting sucks. The post-production sucks. The background sucks. It's not a portrait. It's just not. So I know some of you are having a hard time comprehending this because this isn't the kind of picture that I would take. It's not the kind of picture I would take. I suck at fashion. I don't do fashion. And the reason why I suck at fashion, let me be clear, because no matter how hard I try, the girl has to look good. And that's not what fashion is. So seriously, in this case, this shot's great. He did a great job. I mentioned I'm not a fan of that kind of Instagram / Polaroid look, but that's my personal taste. But Diego, I hate to tell you, you're going to lose this battle with me. So I'm going to ask you to respect what I'm asking. Give it up, man. The attention is not drawn to the background. If all of her feet were there, if all of her feet were in the picture, she's the focus of the picture. Those diagonal lines lead you to her. You guys are too hung up. So seriously, I hate to tell you, any magazine would take that shot if her feet were in the picture or if it were part of a larger group of pictures, and then it would need to be cropped more, not to get rid of the background, but to show the belt. You guys are way too hung up on details. And you guys know I'm a freak about details. Open your minds up. Go look at fashion magazines. That's the point. You're trying to apply portrait rules to a fashion picture. Portrait rules don't apply to a fashion picture. You guys are just completely missing the boat with all your stress about the background. Completely missing the boat. In fact, in a fashion picture, a lot of times you'd see somebody looking out the window back there because this whole idea behind the picture is telling a story. So, okay. Morton Jacobson, oh my God, also, would a catwalk pose be too pedestrian? Yes. In a picture like this, you don't want it to be. You don't want it to be a catwalk pose. You want it to be really just what it is. So, Limestar, the feet need to be in it because you don't see the length of the dress. So, if the dress is cuts off at 6 inches below the knee, you could crop it. But a designer's going to need to show the length of the dress. A catalog needs to show the length of the dress. So my mind is boggled that you guys are struggling so much with this concept. You guys need to open your minds up and go look around at what's being published. Again, I'm going to go back to this because I can't believe you guys that normally are like so on top of this stuff don't get it. The first sentence in Darryl's post, it's a natural fashion image. The minute you invoke the word fashion, the rules change. And unlike a lot of you people, I can go into my Facebook group right now and I can find 100 posts where people have called it fashion and it looks like a freaking catalog picture with an outfit off the rack at Macy's. That's not fashion. Darryl has done all the right things here to make this look like a fashion shot, except he's cropped the shot where it can't be done. Chris, I do people photography, man. I don't know why you'd want to have me do a landscape picture. I could do it, but I don't shoot it, so it's not coming from a place of expertise. I'm a people photographer. That's what we do, okay? So seriously, guys, like, you guys gotta, like, really open your minds up here. Again, all your gripes about the background, the tilt, the tree, the angles, if we were talking about a portrait picture or a modeling shot, in other words, the model's portfolio, right? This picture doesn't cut it. Doesn't even come close. But that's not what Darryl was trying to do. He was trying to do a fashion image. He accomplished that very, very well. All right? Okay, so what do we got? We got one last question here. And Eric was here early tonight. And for those of you that don't know that, by the way, the party doesn't start at 6:30. The party usually starts at about 6. I'm always in the chat about a half an hour early before all the talk chats, before the show starts. While I'm setting up, I turn the chat on. So a lot of folks will come in, start saying hi, ask questions, all that kind of stuff. So Eric asked this question pretty early, and I told him that I would actually gladly deal with it a little bit more on Wednesday night. So I'll just give you the setup, and that way then on Wednesday night, I'll show you guys how to do Diego's bokeh balls in the studio, and I'll answer in a lot more detail Eric's question. And basically he was asking, high-speed sync flash versus using neutral density filters. What are my thoughts? 99.99999% of the time, neutral density filters. So much easier, much less money, more control, more power to your strobe. That's my answer. But I'll gladly go into it. In more detail. Okay? All right. So, Mitch McCoy, if you're following at the Joe Edelman on which platform? I'm usually Joe Edelman on most of them. Some of them I'm the Joe Edelman. All right, gang, so listen, I am going to call it a night tonight. We're only 20 minutes over schedule tonight. That's not bad, right? I will be back here on Wednesday night. Wednesday night's the cool one, gang. Wednesday night is the Q&A night. We've been doing like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 25 to 30 questions in a Q&A session. So get here early, get your questions ready. I will tackle them. I'll show you how to do the bokeh balls like we looked at tonight, but in a studio and Photoshop version. There will be a video coming out later tonight. And by the way, this one's kind of cool. I'm excited about this one. It's one that I haven't done in a while. It's Images Reimagined. So it's going to go live a little bit later tonight. And this is a shot from my Facebook group of a little 4-year-old girl in a yellow dress doing a Belle from Beauty and the Beast pose. The picture was taken outside, and it's a really cute, really adorable picture. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it into the Disney movie poster from Beauty and the Beast. So make sure you check that out. I will see you guys Wednesday night. Have an awesome week. Do lots of shooting. And whatever you do, please remember this.
Thanks for watching another live episode of TogChat. Now go and pick up that camera and shoot something, because your best shot, it's your next shot. So keep learning, keep thinking, and keep shooting. Adios.